Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Saga here, coming to you once again with not a scent of the day, but actually my first foray into long-form content. This is kind of a special occasion, special sort of fragrance. So I'm looking forward to, and I've been looking forward to making some long-form stuff. I've set up here in the home office that my wife uses. We've filmed some long form content on her channel before, and also this is where we partake in our niche knobs live streams. So today's video is on a brand that I think it's super cool to finally see it in action. It's called Etanshi. So Etanshi is the YouTube channel Paragon Fragrances fragrance brand. Nate, as his name is, has I think some of the best produced fragrance content in the space. Immensely creative with editing and visualization. If you haven't seen his video about compliment getting fragrances around Halloween time, he did a Saw thing, hilarious. His deadpan humor, he's fantastic in regards to his reviews. I really enjoy his content, so I was really excited to finally get my hands on what he's been coming up with. I figure someone immensely creative like that, like his scent of the day video that he did in nature, has some wonderful deadpan moments, specifically talking about kayaking. Hilarious. Love it so much. So if you can make me laugh and give me a fragrance rec, beautiful. I want to give you a first impression of the scents and then go away after wearing them for a day, because I think it's important to actually wear your fragrances, not just kind of first impressions and move forward. There's been a multitude of fragrances that I've given chances to that end up being quite I end up being quite satisfied, quite happy with, that perhaps on first go didn't necessarily feel that way. So I think that is important. So with Etanshi, there is 2 fragrances presently in the line as of filming this on October 14th, 2025. It is sold out, but as Nate has said, he intends on getting those back in stock. There was only 30 of each produced to start with, and $70 for a 50 ml bottle is a good deal for niche and also, to be honest with you, designer fragrances. So I personally ordered a bottle of Frostfire. Okay. You can see that there. Lovely bottle there, Frostfire. And Nate was kind enough to chuck in a sample of the other currently available, which is Maelstrom. So we're gonna do one on each hand. Whichever one I kind of am drawn to, that will be the one that I will wear to work tomorrow. My understanding, based upon kind of these discussion points, Etanshi is a cedarwood fragrance, Frostfire from Etanshi is a cedarwood fragrance that should be kind of evoking the sort of crisp mountain air. I think what's intriguing about a house like this is Nate is immensely creative in the content that he makes, and his background kind of in videography and filming and camera work, so that's awesome. Based upon both of these scents, I'm not necessarily looking at a house that is, for instance, when you talk about certain houses like Eau de Parisi, it's trying to evoke a story, a narrative of some kind. And granted, there's a narrative on both of these fragrances. What it seems like in watching some of the content where Nate has talked about this particular fragrance house is it's more his creative outlet and his exploration of fragrance creation. So I'm looking at it from that perspective, is that this is someone who's been reviewing fragrances for a considerable amount of time and is now crafting and creating things. These aren't dupes in any capacity, so understand if I reference a smell or smells like or something like that, I'm not necessarily saying that it smells dead on like that particular scent, but that's what I'm hearkening it to. That's what I'm relating it to. So don't get that twisted. But enough talk. Let's start with Frostfire since it is the bottle. Nice weighted metal cap. Not really much off the atomizer to start with, which is kind of a good thing to be honest with you. And we'll go with 2 sprays there. Nice distribution. I like it quite a bit. In the air. Okay. There is a sweetness. Quite nice. I get kind of a vibe. There's a bit of a sandalwoody cedar aspect to it. Pink pepper. Yeah, that's quite nice. Citrus notes definitely on the top. Nice bergamot. This is quite mass appealing. And I think, to be honest with you, that's a solid way to start a house. You want to bring about these types of fragrances that are going to be a demonstration of kind of what you can do. Mass appealing fragrances are a good way of doing that. And to be honest with you, with the price point and value, this is a better value than any number of different designers. I can't wait to see how this one evolves. It is quite, it feels outdoorsy. This is a good fresh kind of fragrance that feels like it's going to have quite a bit of weight to it. I'm getting kind of vibes in the sense of designer, but designer on a more classy kind of slant. Closer to, at least on my skin, closer to like an Hermes or a Cartier kind of feeling. Nice little bit of sweetness here, but woody. I'm getting quite a bit. That cedar wood is definitely quite a bit, quite noticeable. So good. Is it on the level of like a woodiness of like a Dene or something like that from Argos or something substantially? Not there, but has a lot of those similarities. That sort of wood fragrance at times has kind of a waxiness to it. Not waxy in an iris scent, but waxy in kind of a cedar scent. Quite nice. So I'm excited for that one. Frostfire. See how it develops, and obviously we'll check back. The other one, Maelstrom, which is a aquatic, supposed to be kind of, as Nate sort of described it, mass appealing, infinitely wearable sort of idea. Playing around with these sort of ideas. Yeah, that Frostfire is really nice. But let's check Maelstrom. Partially the reason I didn't go for Maelstrom as my full bottle is Frostfire spoke to me a little bit more. Maelstrom, I also have quite a few aquatics in my collection, and I wasn't necessarily looking at bringing in another one. Frostfire, though, had a little bit more interest, piqued my interest a little bit more. But let's take a sniff of Maelstrom. Yeah, definitely aquatic. Quite nice, though. A little bit different than some of the other aquatics. We're kind of towing a line here of something like a Megamare aquatic, which is that salty kind of more sort of like oceanic versus like a Michael Malone Ocean Noir or something like that. This doesn't come off as like Invictus-y or anything. Comes off actually kind of dark. Maelstrom's a great choice. It is dark, but also quite fresh, quite wearable. On my skin, it has that sort of, yeah. There's a bit of what smells like lemon, perhaps a little bit of grapefruit kind of kicking in there. Yeah, that's a nice aquatic. Not Invictus-y aquatic, not super sweet. Good roundness and tone in this one. Definitely not clear water. Maelstrom is a great choice. It is dark in the sense of it's definitely more like an Atlantic Ocean kind of situation than like Pacific of Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah, I quite like both of these offerings. I think they're solid choices. Yeah, I'm glad I got the full bottle of this. That cedarwood accord is oh, that's nice. That does, the more it kind of goes on, is starting to give me some of those vibes of like a Dene or a Fall of Phaeton, where it's supposed to be wood. And I like that. I like when a fragrance is intentional about its choice and saying, I want this to be what you're smelling. Um, yeah, that's a good one. That is one that it's not immensely complex or odd, or it's very wearable, infinitely wearable. Maelstrom as well. And look at that sheen. Well done. And it's one of those things where it feels like the money that you are purchasing, it's being put into this product, right? Very stark in the way that it's being presented, but I like that. It is a focus on what's in here as opposed to the things on the label. And to be honest with you, if we can explore more of those types of brands, I think that that's awesome. You know, I think I can speak for a number of people that in the past few years, you know, even within the most recent year, there's been some fairly uninspired type of releases from a number of these larger designer houses, and hell, even some of the niche houses aren't above that. But that's why I kind of got excited about this. I got excited about the idea of someone putting their creativity into a bottle and saying, "What do you think?" Love that. Love that capacity. I've always been a big believer in you know, encouraging people to pursue their dreams and their interests. And me buying this is me putting my money where my mouth is. So I think based upon kind of where we're sitting at, tomorrow is going to be to work. Frostfire is definitely going tomorrow. So um, I'll check back with y'all in a couple days because I think I am going to give Frostfire a wearing, and I think I will also give Maelstrom a wearing. And I'll let you know what my experiences with both of those fragrances is like. And hopefully this is kind of a format that I'll continue to kind of explore more frequently. Shorts are cool, but to be honest with you, I'm a teacher, so I yap for a living. So being able to yap about fragrance in a long form setting seems pretty enticing to me. So I'll see you in a couple of days. All right, I'm back after a few days. Wore Frostfire for 2 days and actually wore Maelstrom yesterday. So thoughts kind of for each of these individually, and then I'll sort of sum up my experience thus far with the house at large, and I think we'll finish it up there. So for Frostfire, wore it for 2 days, sprayed it on, went to work. Used, I would probably say, around 6 to 8. That's kind of where I usually fall on something like this. Got whiffs of it throughout the day. Lost it towards the end of the day. I'd probably say sprayed it on around, 7 o'clock. Was kind of around 4-ish, 4:30, 5 when I was kind of walking out the building. It started to go a little bit, but that's fine. That's a full day's worth of wear. I do think that this scent and also Maelstrom itself, I think the intention initially on Nate's side was to get this out a little bit more into the summer. It's October now, so we're kind of pushing into that sort of fall weather. And whether it's me just subconsciously desiring to wear those kind of fragrances, or not, or if it's just the weather kind of changing, I'm kind of looking for a little bit more oomph in regards to my choices. I think this and Maelstrom are going to be great fragrances to rock in the summer. Again, as first impressions, I had stated where I thought that these had some designer sensibilities, but classier kind of designer sense, and I'm still kind of sticking with that. I think that it's not something that you look at now where you see a lot of very sweet, kind of vanillic, and at times over reliance on a lot of ambroxan and other types of kind of aroma chemicals. Not saying that there isn't in here, but it does smell of quality. I would personally, out of Frostfire, I think just for me personally at large, scents that are kind of one-dimensional in regards to what the scent is actually about aren't necessarily something that resonates with me as much. I've never been one of those kind of like just woody fragrance kind of people, where it's like, oh, I just really like sandalwood scents and things of that nature. I do like a little bit more of a transition. I like a little bit more of kind of that sort of varying ideas of your top into your dry down into your deeper dry down. And I did get that at times with Frostfire. There is definitely a delineation between the opening and then as it dries more in the mid. The vetiver that came out, I did get a little aspect of a smoky kind ofness from that sort of vetiver. Not immense by any means. But I think that this, as far as a scent, is a great, classy, gentlemanly summer fragrance. I think this one will be a great one for me if I'm talking about summer, going out and about. It's not going to become kind of overbearing in and of itself, but it has presence. It is there as a fragrance. It's not something that is falling off super quick. It's just at times, I think the note of cedar in here, which smells wonderful, I had to go searching for it a little bit throughout the day, but I would move and I'd catch those whiffs. And I think that that's an aspect of this fragrance that most people are going to experience as well. So, really enjoyed the wearings with this. Will probably find myself when I want something a little bit lighter in the evenings, or kind of something to sort of just pick me up a little bit, because it does have that bright ginger-like opening. Probably going to be reaching for this. I think that does a great job. And then obviously when it starts heating back up again, this will be something that I can find myself wearing to the office, wearing out and about, and things of that nature. Maelstrom. Maelstrom surprised me. Maelstrom was one that initially I kind of was saying how I sort of gravitated away from aquatics, just because I have a number of them in my collection, which is true. But Maelstrom has, I think, personally, one of the nicer kind of deep dry downs of a fragrance that I have. The one that I can kind of draw a comparison to with what Maelstrom sort of reminds me of is, if you've ever smelled Jacques Fath's Vers le Sud, it's an aquatic with fig being a fairly prominent aspect to the note breakdown. Maelstrom has some similarities to that, minus that fig note. So not as much fruitiness. Again, good staying power. The thing that I really loved about Maelstrom, the ambergris dry down of this is actually quite textured. Again, for a fragrance that you're getting a very good cost value, the ambergris is really nice. Now, it's not, real ambergris, because that would be insane to charge $70 for something with real ambergris in it. It's not a cheap thing. But whatever accord that Nate developed here for this ambergris, it's textured. There's a saltiness without it getting briny. And I'm a big ambergris fan. It's an umami for the nose. That's it's that savory aspect for the nose with a wonderful texture in it. And that was something that really caught me towards the end of that wearing when I was at work still, and I'd kind of get whiffs of this ambergris kind of accord that's in there. Oh man, loved it. So good. I would love to get that ambergris accord into like an amber vanillic darker kind of profile. I think that would be excellent. But loved Maelstrom as well. I think it presents the same sort of idea that Frostfire does. These are two releases that were designed to be wearable fragrances that people are going to get use out of. Okay. So I suppose on to kind of my thoughts generally about the house and sort of what this experience was like. From a purchasing standpoint, excellent customer service. Order was fulfilled almost immediately. Again, free sample chucked into the box as well. Wonderful. Small business. I assume he's doing all of this himself, which again, kudos to him for doing that and being so upfront with that. I think where Etanshi is with these two releases is these are two, I guess you could say, in my mind, proof of concept, where it's let me make a product, bring it to market, and see if there is interest in that particular aspect. And obviously the artistic endeavor of fragrance making is also front and center in regards to what Nate's doing here. I mean, he's talked about it himself. It is him playing with this sort of creative endeavor, which I can't stress enough. I'm so happy that he's doing that. I love when people have that opportunity to be creative and to pursue a passion. It's wonderful. And I would rather see someone pursue their passion and support that than necessarily, what we may be looking at in more wider markets nowadays in regards to what is being released. That being said, in regards to that, I think in having that context, as these are kind of the first two releases, what my next request would be is I want to see a little bit more. You have a cedarwood fragrance, you have this aquatic fragrance. I would like to see a little bit additional kind of ideas, maybe taking a little bit more of a risk. Again, that's my sentiment because I'm someone who loves niche perfumery, and admittedly I like weird kind of stuff. I like unique smells. I like olfactive experiences that might be a little bit more challenging for some folks, but also at the same time I do like wearable scents. And I think there's a happy medium between those two, and I'm sure he's got some things cooking up as well, because he and I actually have quite a bit of overlap in regards to fragrances we really like. Like personally, I would love to see something in the realm of something a little bit darker, heavier, more winter, fall-like. Heck, I would love to see his take on some iris fragrances and things of that nature. I know, quite an expensive endeavor, but that's sort of this idea is there's a lot of reasons for me to be confident that this house is going to continue to move forward and start to maybe dabble in some more challenging or perhaps even some thought-provoking profiles. Because I think when you're allowing the art form of perfumery to be the guiding principle of what you're doing, that exploration, that playing, that fun, I think that over time, that's just going to be an inevitability that you're going to see some more experimentation, some more thoughts. I know he's got one fragrance that I believe it already has the note breakdown updated, because there's two other ones that he's intending on releasing sooner. That one is more like white florals and things like that, which I'm down. I love Reflection Man. I love, jasmine. White florals in general are just something that I quite enjoy when it comes to fragrance. So totally down. And then the other one, I believe it's Mysterious. Doesn't have the notes last time I checked. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think that as a singular person doing this kind of perfumery, that starting with something like this, I don't see that being a problem. I can understand some people might hear the concept of niche perfumery and smell this and say, Well, that's not niche. We're not getting into a semantical argument. I understand that conceptual idea. I mean, to be honest with you, niche to me it tends to be something where if we're going to get into semantics, niche in my definition is someone creating fragrance with the express idea of expressing an idea, a concept, and the artistic value of fragrance. That's sort of my idea when I talk about niche. That's where I look at like Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male Elixir. Love it. Great fragrance. I own it. I like the smell of it. Is it an artistic niche fragrance? No, it's not. Same perfumer, Quentin Biche. Ganymede? Artistic, unique, trying to tell a story. And I think that you can do both, where it's wearable and has that sort of artistic backing behind it with an intention that's being put out. And yeah, I think that that's one of the things that I was really happy about this. Seeing this pop up in my feed that finally was happening, that he was making something like this, I was really happy about that. And so I think that when fragrance kind of community and fragrance sort of sentiment, you know, it can be kind of filled with a lot of hot takes and people having, you know, aggressive opinions about things that don't necessarily need to have such an aggressive opinion. At the end of the day, it is perfumed water and oil. It's nice to see someone following a passion and bringing it to fruition. I think that's really cool. So, Etanshi as a house gets a thumbs up from me. Don't go looking at these two releases if you're thinking that they're going to be these immensely challenging and thought-provoking fragrances. I would, again, like I said before, there's a lot of promise here. And I think that as someone who's done so much sort of reviewing and ideas, that Nate is going to be honest with you, he's probably chomping at the bit to start putting more of these into production and starting to explore more and more things. And I think that that's great. I think that that is really wonderful. So, thanks so much for joining me for my first long form video. If you happen to see this, I appreciate it. It's really, again, in much the same respect, it's me doing something quite similar, in which this is an exercise for me to flex my creative muscle that doesn't always get the most practice. So it's been nice to sort of share and discuss and you know, make some connections. So thanks. But I think that's it. I'm going to stop talking now, and hope you have a good rest of your evening, afternoon, morning, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Take care.